Welcome. You're listening to The Aligned Self, Conversations in Creating a Conscious and Abundant Life. This is Daniel Denovi. I'll be your guide and host. Let's see just where we can take this. Hello, friend, and welcome back to the conversation. Now, I have to admit right off the bat that I did not have this topic in mind yesterday when I was thinking about the next episode to record. But this morning, the title of this episode has been in the forefront of my mind, and I can't get it out of my head, and it seems like the only thing I can talk about, and that is how to turn your life around in an instant. Now, I've talked about this topic before in varying capacities, but have not used that specific title. And I realize as I'm going to talk about this that your life may seem like it's just fine, that there's nothing to change. You want to keep it just like you have it. So this episode may not appeal to you at all. Even though it says how to change your life around in an instant, it also can mean a day or a mood. So in this episode, we're going to talk about transforming your thoughts, transforming how you're being, and manifesting, law of attraction, shifting your vibration. Because first and foremost, when we arrive at the idea that our life needs changing, that we're on the wrong path, that we don't like where we're ending up, we're aware of the manifestations of choices we made yesterday, how we were being yesterday, or even this morning. We're aware of how we were being in the past. Our point of power is the present moment. We can make a new choice right now. But if you don't change anything, there is a predictable, almost certain future that you have a rendezvous with down the road. For instance, I live in Fort Worth, Texas. If I head east on I-30, eventually about 4 hours away is Little Rock, Arkansas. If I stay on that path, if I keep doing the same things, now I may speed up or I may slow down, but if I stay on that road, if I keep heading in that direction, sooner or later, I'm going to end up in Little Rock. So what does it take? What does it actually take to turn my life around? Well, if I'm heading in a particular direction, I stop. I can stop for a moment, I can stop for a long, but I have to interrupt my progression, interrupt the pattern that I'm involved in. So I stop, I get off the highway, I turn around. I turn around and head in the opposite direction. And once doing that, I have turned my life completely around. Seems rather simple. Maybe I'm kind of heading in the right direction, and I just need to vary my approach a little bit. Well, I can shift incrementally. I don't have to make a dramatic change. Driving down the highway, I realize I don't want to go to Little Rock. At any point in time, I can take a different road. I can take any road that is not heading in the direction of Little Rock, and I will end up somewhere else. So if you happen to find your life in a place where nothing seems to be going right, then you need to do anything differently than you've been doing it in the past. I did a whole episode on pattern interrupts, just a simple act of brushing your teeth with your left hand if you're right-handed. If you're getting dressed and you're putting on your slacks or your pants, instead of putting in the first foot that you normally do, put the other foot in, put the other leg in the pants. I know it seems like a small change, but these tiny shifts start interrupting the pattern of what you call normal. Now, I just realized I skipped a step, a very important step, and this has to take place before you can do anything. You have to arrive at a decision that you want a different result than the result you've been getting. See, a lot of people look at their life and they don't like how things are going, or they don't like how their day is going, and they give in. They give up. They don't see how they can change it. It's just kind of the way it is. And they say, I don't like where I am. Some people even use the H word, which rhymes with 8. Okay, you already said it in your head, so I'll say it out loud. They say they hate their life. And why would they do that? It's their life. What you have access to, what you have present, has been a result of your own choices, for better or worse. Now, granted, you may not like the choices you made. You may not like where you've ended up. But the power is the fact that you made the choices, so you can make new choices. And through those new choices, you're going to turn your life around. Now, typically, before you make any move in a new direction, you need to have a certain amount of dissatisfaction with where you currently are. For instance, if you've ever been camping and you're snug as a bug in a sleeping bag, but you have the urge that you need to go to the bathroom, you'll lay there as long as you can, snug as a bug inside that sleeping bag until you get so uncomfortable that you have to get out. You have to go out and get in the cold or step in dewy grass. I can remember camping at a state park in Michigan, and the bathrooms, the latrine, the showers were about a quarter mile away. I did not have the luxury of just stepping outside my tent and going by a tree. And so I laid there inside my sleeping bag until I got so uncomfortable I needed to get out now if I was ever going to make it to the bathroom. Now, I admit that may not be the most elegant example that I could have come up with, but we will stay in a job, we will stay in a relationship, we will stay in a circumstance until we get so uncomfortable we cannot stay there any longer. We may even say, I don't like this, but we have not yet arrived at a sufficient amount of angst, a sufficient amount of uncomfortableness to move, to change. No matter what's going on, no matter how uncomfortable it is, we've decided that we can tolerate how it is. It hasn't gotten that bad yet. We haven't reached threshold. Now, threshold is that point of no return, the straw that breaks the camel's back. That moment of decision where you say, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm not going down this road, I'm not putting up with this anymore. Now, the beauty of it is we don't have to wait until things get so bad before we say that. Sometimes we wait until they get so bad we don't feel like we have a choice. Why not be proactive? And if you know that there is a predictable, almost certain future that you're moving towards, you can say stop at any time. I'm not doing this. I don't like this. I'm going to make a change today. Now, what's important, once we decide to change, once we decide we don't want to go down that road anymore, we need to focus on where we do want to go. What circumstances do we want to have in place? Not just moving away from some undesirable situation, because we cannot not think of something. Meaning, for instance, if you want to give up drinking and you say, I don't want to drink anymore. I don't want to drink alcohol anymore. When we say, I don't want to drink, the only image that comes to mind is drinking alcohol. You need to talk about what you want to do instead, not what you don't want to do. For instance, don't think of a little blue bunny right now with cherub wings flying around the ceiling. Don't think about it. Don't think of a baby blue elephant with pink polka dots sitting in your living room. Don't think about it. You see, you cannot not think about it. So once you decide where you do not want to go, create the opposite. Where do you want to go? And then focus on where you do want to go. And then ask yourself, what is the next logical step I can take right now? What's the smallest logical step I can make that will move me in the direction of this change, of this new desire, this new goal? You see, you don't have to reinvent everything. You just have to start moving in a new direction. One small decision, and then after you make that decision, make another decision, another choice to keep going. Now, that's a little joke that I tell in my fire walking workshop where I illustrate that the most important aspect of walking on hot coals is knowing when you're ready to take the first step. If you get that solved, once you take the first step, I guarantee you're going to walk to the other side. You're not going to stop. You're not going to meander. You're just going to keep walking because at that point, you're committed. But talking about keeping your focus on where you want to go, in the fire walk, when people feel fear, when they're overcome by fear, I know that they are focusing on the coals. They are focusing on the obstacle. And they're probably thinking about things like tripping and falling or burning or something like that. But when you focus on the other side, something beyond the end, and walk towards that, the coals are just incidental. The obstacle disappears because now you're not walking on coals. You're walking to the other side. These are subtle yet profound distinctions about where do you put your mind, where do you focus on. Now I want to refer back to a couple episodes ago where I talked about the power of state, how to access states of power. And this is probably the most profound thing that you can do, is start moving your body differently. I can remember a time in my late 30s, I was sitting in the living room and I was just, heavily aware, profoundly aware I did not like how my life was turning out, the decisions I was making at that time, and I was sitting there forlorn. I was kind of muddling in the mess of my emotions. And that's what I don't want you to do. That's what a lot of people do. They sit there and they sit there and just feel sorry for themselves at the mess that they've created. Well, I was kind of sitting in that mess for myself, and I didn't know necessarily what to do. Because at that moment, it seemed like tomorrow was just going to be more of the same, and I didn't want that. I didn't want that at all. But I didn't know exactly what to do, and it was raining out. I didn't have much money in my pocket or available to me at that moment to go do something, go somewhere. So what did I do? I just walked out the front door, barefoot. It was pouring rain. It wasn't raining just a little bit. It was pouring rain, like buckets. And the streets were flooding. The drains were overwhelmed. It was like rivers going down. And I'm sure that anyone looking out their window would have thought me as being crazy, walking out in that downpour. But I tell you that the rain coming down and me being in the rain totally, immediately shifted my state. Fortunately, the rain wasn't cold. It was fairly warm. And I thought to myself in that moment, I hadn't been in a rain like that since I was a kid. A lot of times, it'd be raining all day, and I was the oldest of 4 boys, and my mom would just get tired of us being inside. And she would say, strip down and go out and play in the rain. And we had a blast. And I remembered that from my childhood. And so what did I do? I started splashing in the water. I was acting as if I was 9 years old again. And here I am in my late 30s. So there I am splashing around. I even laid down on the sidewalk, let the rain pour over me. I had fun. It changed my state immediately, and I no longer felt like I was oppressed, like I had choices. And ultimately, that's what we want. We want to know that we can find our way out. If we don't like where we currently are, we can start making different choices, different decisions, and go somewhere completely different. It is never, ever so bad that you can't change it. So what do you do if it's not raining outside? How do you change your state? Well, like I said, do anything differently than you've done it. There is a particular physiology that goes along with feeling confident, like knowing where you're going. Earlier I mentioned the fire walk, and when I have people do the fire walk, some people think that they need to be meditative as they walk across the coals. 9 times out of 10, you'll burn when you do that. You need a certain amount of agitation in your system. Not aggravation, but agitation. You need to be somewhat excited. I tell them to walk to the other side deliberately, as if they have somewhere very important to go, and they are very intent on getting there. There's no meandering. In fact, if someone was to see you walk that way out in the marketplace, on the street or something, they would say, they're heading somewhere. It's evident in how you're walking, in your carriage. Now, your breathing is very important. It will change everything. In fact, depression or low energy states, there's very shallow breathing. We're breathing high in our chest and short breaths. Now, breathe more deeply. Take a big sigh, even yell. Now, I have this sound that I make when I really want to get some power, and it's like a huh. And if I really want to put some extra juice behind it, I'll hit myself in the chest when I do it. Huh. And not just once, I'll do a huh, huh. Now, you may want to do this in the privacy of your own room or in your car or something like that, or do it out on the street. Who cares, really? What we're doing is aligning your body, aligning your posture, how you're moving with where you want to go. And we've already decided that, even if it's somewhere different. If the building is on fire, there is a particular posture, the particular way of moving that will get you out of there rather than just meandering. This is where you want to act as if you know where you are going. Act as if, even if you don't know where you're going, act as if you do. Assume the posture, assume the gestures, assume the behavior that is in alignment with where you want to go. It's all about alignment, congruence. So we have our physiology down. We made a decision way back when to do something different. But what stops a lot of people, and I indicated this in 2 or 3 episodes ago, I think it was the 5-Minute Friday, and that is the thing that stops a lot of people is that they think they need to know how they're going to fulfill on their new future, their new path. You don't need to know the how, you just need to be inspired, inspirational dissatisfaction. Focusing on your intention and you say, I don't know how I'm going to fulfill on this, but I am committed. I am going to do anything it takes, anything different, as long as it's not what I was doing yesterday. Because if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. Albert Einstein is attributed with the quote that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result. I've since learned that Einstein never said that. I don't know exactly who, but whoever said it was definitely a genius. Now, when you start doing different things, behaving differently, being differently, and you're focused on your intention, somewhere different than where you have been, in something highly desirable, the next attribute is we want to be expectant. We want to anticipate that things are changing. Things are going to change. Things are changing right now. Just the fact that I've made a different decision, everything is changing. When you're in that mindset and you're focusing on the things that you want and wondering how is the universe going to support you, you come upon that moment like I did about 20 years ago when I needed some money. And I overheard a conversation about a friend of a friend selling their sailboat. And I saw opportunity. Now, if I wasn't focused on opportunity, a lot of people would have heard that conversation and not done anything. But then I didn't even wait on it. I started taking inspired action right away. I had no idea if the actions I was taking would yield any kind of result, but I just kept taking the next step and the next step in that direction. I ended up with a huge finder's fee covering everything that I needed at the time. And from beginning to end, it only took a couple weeks. And it was something that was way off my radar. Had no idea about it, but once I created my intention, and then I turned it over to the universe to fulfill on it, turned it over to my people. So, you don't need to know the how. You just need to be inspirationally dissatisfied. Make a decision, a choice to move in a new direction. Pick your goal, pick your intention. Don't focus on what you're moving away from. Focus on where you want to go. And then be the person that would fulfill on that intention. The formula is be, do, have. In your being, you are going to be inspirationally led, have inspirational urgings, inspired action. Take those actions, and then you will have a new result. Do anything different than you've been doing in the past. And if you start doing some habitual actions that you've typically done in the past, and you know that they don't lead anywhere, stop it as soon as you realize and start doing something different. Incremental steps in the direction of a worthy destination. The steps are pretty simple. What you need to realize is that you can make a difference. You will make a difference if you choose to. It's never too late. Things are never bad enough to start changing your direction. You're never too old. You're never too crippled. You're never too poor. It's just not bad enough yet. If you can still breathe, you can make a new choice. If you can start thinking new thoughts, you can start entertaining a new destination. You are on your way. Well, I don't know who needed to hear that today. You can contact me and say thank you. I was the one. Raise your hand. I was the one that this was for. Until then, this has been your friend and host, Daniel Denovi, urging you to follow your bliss. Live your life from inner signals. Be inner directed as you engage in the epic adventure.